Rage on that beat, going crazy.
Shout out to Tim Marner said, you got to do an interview with a person. And, you know, I posted one with me and Andrea as kind of our first one, and I posted it on there. When he had asked me at the time, he goes, who do you have in mind? I said, Miriam. You were the first name I said.
I am so honored, honestly.
It's good. So you know our house rules. We do it like gym talk.
Absolutely.
Who you are, where you're at right now, what time is it, and obviously were you working or chilling?
I'm about to be working, and
amazing.
So I'm Miriam. I'm a digital artist. I live in Adelaide, South Australia, and it is currently 9:33 a.m.
in the morning on Saturday.
It is Saturday morning.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. That's so crazy to think. You're so many hours ahead of us. Now, give us a little background. You know, people watching this might be their first time watching it. You've been on Gym Talk with me, Ashley Ann McCool, and the whole Gym Talk family, and everybody's a big fan of yours. You were back in May or June on Tea with Gary Vee.
Yes.
And, you know, and shout out to Gary Vee and the whole V Nation. But one of the things, let's say prior to that, is you got into art. So let's take it back to how you got into art, or where you want to start from when it comes to the art side.
Absolutely. So it actually goes back, like if we really, really go back to where it started, it's actually 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, so I actually initially started digital art because I wanted to be a scientific illustrator. I had just started my degree. I was basically learning how to be a medical researcher, and I thought it would be really cool to learn how to illustrate, because in science, it's really important to visualize all your, anything you do, you need to be able to visualize it, because most of the time, particularly in research, you're dealing with really, really refined, complicated ideas. And, you can explain those in words as much as you want, but no one really gets it until they see it for themselves. So I thought back then, I've always been a very, very visual learner. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I could teach myself how to do this digital illustration, because it might tie in really nicely with being a scientist. And so I got my first drawing tablet. Actually, it's the only drawing tablet. I still use it. So I got my drawing tablet and I started learning how to use all the Adobe programs. I couldn't draw because I'd never had any drawing training. I just wanted to do it. It was something that I just thought it would be great to learn how to do. So I had to learn how to draw and how to do all the technical stuff at the same time. And then in 2018, so I would like to add, at that time in my life, everything was very revolved around science. Science has always been a very big passion of mine, and I thought it was something that, it was all I thought I could do with my life. And a lot of my identity was in me being a scientist. Like I was like Miriam, the science girl kind of thing to like my family and friends. So in 2018, one night I'm just sort of chilling out and I get this like ripping sensation through my pelvis, and I wind up in an emergency room, and I get sent home and blah, blah, blah. Within a few days, I essentially had a diagnosis that I had an illness called adenomyosis first, and then suspected endometriosis. So endometriosis and adenomyosis are essentially like sister illnesses. Endometriosis is where this tissue that is very similar to what is shed, like what's shed during a period, so that kind of lining of the uterus, a tissue that's similar to that starts to grow outside of the uterus in areas that it doesn't belong. And what happens is the tissue it's very sticky, and it can kind of stick those areas together. So I had it on my, I've had it in very, it just kind of grows wherever it wants to. And the adenomyosis is Well, for me, it's essentially I have a whole bunch of cysts in the muscle of my uterus, and they can't get rid of them. They're just everywhere, and they're just sitting there. And they cause a lot of pain because they kind of, they interact with your nervous system just because of where they are. They're kind of always triggering your nervous system to go off. So you develop chronic. Yeah, sorry, it's a very complicated illness.
No, it's great.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with this all at the start of 2018. I had to have a surgery and everything, and a whole bunch of complications came up because endometriosis is complicated enough as it is, but I had adenomyosis as well. So I had two things kind of going on at the same time. And so I had to drop out of university. And at the time, that felt like such a devastating thing for me because, you know, so much of my identity was you're the academic girl, you're the science girl, you're going to be a researcher, you're going to do this. And all of a sudden, I couldn't do any of it. And I was kind of at the point where I was in so much pain, like even just leaving my house was too much to do most days. So I became like bedridden, depressed, angry, frustrated. Like I felt like I had literally nothing to do with my life. And at the time I was also like 19, so I wasn't really mature enough to be coping with any of this stuff. And it got to a point where I just spent so much time at home. I was going absolutely nuts and I needed something to do. Like I just needed something to put my time and energy into. So I already had the drawing tablet and I had all these, you know, all the software and I just like, why don't I just start drawing? Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Just sitting here? I'm going to feel sorry for myself. So
that's amazing. Amazing. Let me interject really quick.
Absolutely. This is a long story.
No, Miriam, we are huge fans of yours. I'm telling you, huge fans. Anytime somebody brings up your name in our lives, they're like, you got to get Miriam on.
I love them.
You got to get Miriam.
So much.
What I find so fascinating is that you didn't have any prior art experience.
Yeah.
And I always find, you know, people who are, and you're hearing more and more of it now, which is so funny to think about. People that didn't have that skill set are almost becoming more skilled than the people that were in that profession. And here's why I'm a firm believer of that. When you don't come from a skill set mentality, so you didn't come from a drawing background, or maybe you didn't come from a dance, so none of the arts you came from, you said you strictly came from the science. You laser focused on getting to where you needed to go.
Oh, 10 out of 10, yeah.
Right? So
Absolutely.
you looked at it, okay, I got this tablet here. It's just sitting here. I got this issue that I got to deal with my health. And instead of which I always say, sitting around and crying and say, woe is me, and waiting for someone to come save you, you said, I better save myself.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. That's what it was. Right. You know, and the art, like, it's really funny because that's why I've always, especially this year, that's why I've always talked about my health on my art account, because I have the art because of my health. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they're so intertwined with each other.
100%.
You know, I didn't start, the reason I started my Instagram account to post my artwork was because I made fan art of this rapper I really liked, and I knew the only way I could get them to see it was if I posted it on social media. But besides that, I was way too nervous. I was like, I can't draw. I'm not sharing this. This is terrible. Da 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 da. But like once I posted for the first time, I was like, that wasn't scary. Let's do it again. And just kept going with it. That's why I've always talked about it, because I kind of just came out of nowhere, just like, hello, everybody. Like, these are my little drawings. And I always tried to give some context. But yeah, so then over 2018, I was home for the whole year, essentially, because like I said, I just couldn't I pretty much lost all my independence, which is a pretty crappy feeling, I think, for anybody. You know, you want to be able to look after yourself. You want to be able to, you know, literally stand on your own 2 feet and do all the things. And I felt like I didn't have that. Well, like, I kind of didn't, because like at the time I was just physically just a blob, basically.
Right.
So what happened over 2018 was, I'm so grateful for this year of my life, actually, because I think so much happened that changed me for the better.
Right.
So the first thing was with the artwork, I realized that with digital art, you're doing it's a 50-50 of your skill set, because you have to be good with the technology and the programs and figuring out, like, if what I would do on paper, you now have to translate to your head, like, okay, how am I going to get this onto a screen and get it to look the way I want it to look? It's like a whole, and I think maybe that's why I love it, because like being, even just from you could tell from the science background, I'm a very problem solving type of person.
I was just about to say that honestly, Miriam, I'm listening to you say this and I'm like, in her brain might have figured out how to use the science aspect of an equation, because it becomes, science is equation. Now, I'm a firm believer. I am 100% believer, Miriam, there's going to be a young child, I'm telling you, there's going to be the equation of how to cure multiple diseases we see. And this kid is going to stand there in front of this board, because it becomes equations, right?
Yeah.
And they are going to be like, they're going to erase one number and they're going to put another number or another formula. And people are going to be like, they just found the cure to cancer. They just found the cure to AIDS. They just found the cure to the coronavirus. Like, literally, I am 100%
they're going to do it.
Because when you go into something and you use a different skill set, you completely think different than everybody else in that skill set. So here you are in the science, and now you're going to art, and you're probably like, you know what? The equation of getting from here to here is not the way they're thinking it. It should be this way, because you're focusing on the science side, which is fascinating to me. I get hyped for this.
I love that. Yeah, I agree. I think something that is so underrated in the world of science is creativity. It is so underrated. Like
in science, sorry to cut you there. In science.
Just from what you were saying, something that is just, you know, like there's this whole image of science being like very to the rule book, and it is like the mathematics and everything. Of course, you know, it is what it is. But the way someone perceives something, like a person who is creative is probably going to be a very good scientist, because you need to have the ability to actually think outside the box. And that's how they find solutions to problems. So that's why I just thought it was cool when you said, you know, a kid's going to come and erase a number, because that's what we need. We need people who think like that. But yeah, definitely when it goes back to the art side of things, I enjoy the digital art because it's very, you know, it's creative, but it's also very rigorous, and it's very, you know, it's very problem solving and everything. So I had to attack this thing 50-50, because I realized, okay, I need to learn the software, but I also need to learn how to draw. Like at the end of the day, whether you can draw or not is always going to come out at some point. And and the thing is, I've learned is it's all just progress. You know, you can't say, oh, I'm such a great artist, or like I'm such a terrible artist, because you just are what you are that day. You're going to improve, you're going to change, you're going to grow. But yeah, so what I did was, while I was practicing with all the technology, at the same time, I started to just take a bunch of free online classes learning how to draw, like anatomy. I learned, like, I did a course that was about like illustrating nature, so like plants and animals and things like that. And that is when I learned how to draw. Not to like such a great artist, you know, oh, I'm such a great artist. It's not that. It taught me how to break down objects into shapes in my head, so that I could look at anything. So like once you draw enough things, and you know, they say, oh, you've got, I think one of the most useful things was learning how to draw the skeletons of animals, because you had to look at different animals and you had to break it up and be like, okay, you know, what kind of shape is their torso? What kind of shape are their legs? And you do that enough times with enough random animals, then you start looking at objects and you're like, oh, that's literally just a rectangle. Like, or you look at it and you're like, that's literally a sphere with like a rectangle coming out of it or something like that. So that's when I started to learn how to draw. And at the same time, in terms of my health, I was basically going through a whole bunch of treatments, and I was starting to learn how to basically live with endometriosis and how to move my body. I was starting to educate myself on what chronic pain is and how it works, so that I wasn't scared of it. Yeah, and essentially, like, that's pretty much how I became like a digital artist. It was just a gradual process, and then the art turned into a coping mechanism at first. Like, I would only do it if I was doing really badly, and I'd be like, oh, I'm so sad, time to draw. But then as time went on, and particularly this year, I was like, I just want to draw, and I'm going to keep drawing, you know, whether I'm happy or sad or in between. And that's how it happened. And I'm sorry, that's such a long story.
No, Miriam, it's great. And you know what? And anybody that's going to watch this now, you know, on replay here as we post it, you couldn't say that any better. I'm telling you, I'm trying to figure out a way in my own life to see how I can run my lives on Instagram for 2 hours and replace that class. I usually have a 10:30 class, which I love dearly. Yeah. But I love talking on this screen. I get such a high connecting with people, right? And for me, you know, I love the whole thing about the coping mechanism. You know, I came to the studio. We went into the pandemic on March 17th. Yeah. From March 18th, even in on the 17th, to right till you know, till now, I've been coming to the studio every day.
Murdering it.
Every day.
Murdering it. Yeah.
Weekends, Saturdays, Sundays. I didn't want people to feel who were part of my, part of our studio, my personal clients, and maybe people who were just looking for an online person. Mm-hmm. I didn't want them to feel, hey, this guy's going to do it from home. I literally showed up every day, and I still do. I'm here today. Right. Yeah. And
I just noticed it's like 7:30, 8 p.m. your time, and you're in the studio.
100%.
I'm blown away. Like, I was looking behind and I was like, I don't think he's at home right now. I think he's actually still at the studio.
And you're not gonna find me. You're not gonna find me because I want people to feel, listen, this guy is true to what he says. He's at the studio. He wants to be at the studio. He needs to be at the studio. And for me, Miriam, it's the coping mechanism. Yeah. Right. It's the one place I know if somebody comes in here, they're going to get a hell of a workout. If they go online, they're going to get a hell of a workout. I started this you know, the app, and then now with the Train With Me app, and shout out to the Train With Me people. Now being able to put people on the app. You know, I checked the analytics today. 20 people in the last 3 weeks have tried my app, this app that I'm part of. So
bloody amazing.
And you know it, when you started with that first drawing, you were like, this is crap. But you probably remember that first drawing.
Oh, I do. I absolutely do.
Right? And I told everyone, I said, all I need was one person to try the app. If one person tried it, you knew. So you knew in that drawing, if I could just do one, even if it was a line, Miriam, you knew you were gonna be successful.
I think when you realize so for me, I mean, like, even my whole life, I've been a very ambitious person, and
you can tell.
You're but
in science, you have to be.
No matter what it is, because I've had a whole bunch of interests. I've always put my heart and soul into it. You know, I wanted to be a singer I've been singing since I was like 4 years old. I'm not the greatest singer, but I loved it. And I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it while I was doing it, like, you know, in school and everything. And then I wanted to be a magician when I was a teenager. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it. I went to the library. I rented every magic book that I could find and learned as many magic tricks. I would go up to teachers and my friends and just be like, every day I'd practice. I'd be like, can I show you guys a magic trick? And maybe they were terrible, but that was me, like, you know, putting myself into it. When it got to science, I put all of myself into it. So then when it got to art, I was just like, it's the same thing. We just put all our, you know, no matter what it is. Like, I feel like I'm one of those people who has so many interests, but I put everything into it because
100%.
That's all you know. Option? I don't know any other. What's the other option? Like, you don't put the effort in?
That's what.
I don't understand expecting success and not putting the effort in. That doesn't work.
on any, Miriam, I always tell people this: look at every great athlete, look at every great person, maybe even look at people, scientists that you've looked up to.
Oh, yeah.
And imagine if you ask them, how many times did you have to do this one specific science experiment? And they're going to give you a number. And you can't wrap your head around that number, but to them,
ridiculous numbers.
So when you meet somebody like that, Miriam, like yourself, where you're like, I don't know any other way than this is what I'm doing. This is why you're going to be successful. I'm not surprised with the whole team with Gary Vee, and I want to get on that in a second here.
Sure.
But I'm also not surprised about your demeanor. And it shows, one, you know, I'm a big, all about adversity builds character. I'm not surprised you are where you are because, one, you had something go on in your life that altered it forever. Yeah. Two, you didn't sit there and say, oh man, what am I going to do? You said, okay, here's my options. I pick up this pad and I use it as a coping mechanism. I better learn these programs. I got the science background and I just want to figure it out.
Sure. And you know what, in a way, like what helped me, it was crazy because, you know, when I was starting to learn about how chronic pain worked as well, I feel like I've always, in a weird way, I'm actually a lucky patient because I am a scientist. So you could give me a research paper, I would understand it. And I'm not saying that to be like elitist or anything, but you know, like people who aren't trained in science, you cannot expect, like you just can't expect somebody to understand like the terminology or anything. That's ridiculous. It takes years of training to get that stuff. And I remember when I started learning it, I switched off my patient brain. I went on YouTube and I would watch, actually, this is a cool story. I would watch lectures, like literal lectures that were given to universities from professors about chronic pain. And I stopped, I treated it like I was a student and I was like, oh crap, this is so interesting. I am genuinely fascinated by it. And I started to learn about chronic pain initially because I had it, but then I was like, this is actually really interesting. And I made it a goal. One of the top researchers in Australia in chronic pain, he actually wound up working at my university, and I got a scholarship at the start of the year to actually work in his lab. And it was just such a crazy moment because full circle moment was being the girl at home, you know, just learning and trying to understand what was happening to my body, to being in that lab, you know. And it's honestly, it's not, you know, lab work is hard work. Like it's very in the trenches 99% of the time. But it was crazy because like it was just another thing that came of it, and I got to actually be a part of that research group and do chronic pain research. And it was, and for me that's such a blessing because it's like, as much as I have it, I also find it interesting, and it's something that I'm always going to continue to learn about. And I just, I think that was something that actually helped me not get down about it, you know. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect, you know. It sucks to live with chronic pain. Like it's not always, you know, it is painful. But at the same time, in some way, I could always keep my head just out of it and look at it objectively and go, okay, this is what's happening right now. Don't get scared. It's literally your brain just behaving like this. It's just another one of those. And that's what helped me start to not be scared of pain and start to get my body moving again. And I literally like, and that's another thing I think with my, like, I guess work ethic or whatever you want to call it, is I became very determined to get my body moving and active and as, you know, normal as I could, because, you know, I'm not going to, you know, leave that control over my body. I'm not going to lose that because of this illness. So so it's just crazy because so many things played into it, and the art was just, it was all just a really big healing process, I guess, if that's
right. Yeah. No, that's amazing. Let's talk about then how this year kind of started and then the snowball effect happened, and you've been on this amazing roller coaster, and now we get to see, you know, this shining light moment that you're experiencing, and I'm loving all the content you're putting out. I love the ruggedness. I love the fact that you're not caring about, you know, what you're putting out there. You just want to put out good content and stuff like that. Let's talk about leading up to getting on Tea with Gary Vee. Why start texting the text line, or why start tweeting at him? What was going through your mind at that moment?
So I've mentioned actually that let me give some context. So I've mentioned that I was at the start of the year on a scholarship in a research lab. Okay. So pretty soon after, so starting the year, this was there was a lot going on. So I had, you know, I was back at university, and I had just finished a scholarship with the lab that I always wanted to work with, and my health kicks up again. And I very quickly fell behind in all my classes. I was essentially failing everything. I wasn't keeping up. I was really struggling with everything in that way again. And this was me using digital art to cope, because I felt like I felt like I wasn't doing well on the academic side, you know, so I flipped over and went to the artist side, and I was like, you know what? I can't control what's happening with this right now, because once you're behind, sometimes like it's just too much to catch up and deal with the health at the same time. It was just becoming way too overwhelming. So I started drawing a lot, like really drawing a lot. And eventually I wound up, so I needed to have a surgery for the endometriosis, like very badly. I had more cysts appearing in my uterus from this adenomyosis. There was endometriosis that had grown back, and it was behind my uterus and causing a whole bunch of issues near the base of my spine, basically. And so I needed to have surgery, but because of COVID, all the hospitals were not allowing people to have surgery. So I was just in this limbo, and I was just, I felt stagnant. I felt like I didn't have control. I wound up dropping out of all my classes because it was just becoming too much, and I didn't think the stress was worth it. So I dropped out of the classes. And
sorry to cut you. What month was that in?
So this would have been when I did this would have been maybe around March, April.
Okay.
So this is leading up to Tea with Gary Vee.
We know the timeline. Okay, so in March, this goes on. You got to make a decision.
Yes, so I was pretty reluctant with the uni thing, because I felt really bad about it. I was like, you know, I'm letting myself down, da 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 da. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm on my own timeline. I'm not on anybody else's timeline. I'll come back to it when I'm ready to come back to it. Dropped out of the classes, and I went back to doing digital art, and I was doing a lot of it. And at the same time, this is when Tea with Gary Vee started. And I had been watching Gary Vee since I think last year, when I was kind of going through some things. He helped, I got to be honest, he has helped me with the worst mental health things that I've you know, I think the way I see Gary Vee is like a little whisper of positivity. Like you can always listen to him, but it's very different to act on what he's saying as well.
100%.
So I would always listen to him, and he's talking about content creating and executing, and I would always just think, I'm not good enough to do that. Like, I'm not good enough of an artist. I can't draw every day. I don't know how to, like, all I was like, you know, I was just very negative and making excuses like, Miriam, you literally could not manage to draw like every single day or whatever. And then Tea with Gary Vee starts. And I was watching the show, and I always wanted to make some kind of Gary Vee content. Like I just really wanted to do it, but I thought I wasn't good enough to. So I'm watching the show, and I think it was the night of like the second episode. It was like 11 p.m. and I'm like, I should draw a mug. Like I just out of nowhere, I'm like, I should draw a mug. I'm like, that would be great. I'm like, what if I draw a mug? And then I pull some quotes from the show, and we make a little set of drawings, and we do some things. So I stayed up while the show was playing. I was sitting there drawing. I had Gary Vee on one side of my screen and my drawing program on the other side. And I draw all the stuff. And by the end of the episode, I think I had everything ready to go. So I posted it. And then I went to bed and I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And I woke up the next day. Team Gary Vee had posted my artwork. I had a whole bunch of Gary Vee community just flood me. Like, I was overwhelmed. I was like, where did these people come from? And I was just like, wait a minute, maybe this is a cool idea. Maybe we can keep this going. So then the next night I did the same thing. I was like, okay, let's pull some quotes from this episode and let's make some, you know, mug drawings or whatever. And I just kind of kept going. And what I realized, first of all, I realized I could draw way faster than I thought I could. I was like, this whole time, I was like, how did I get that done in like an hour? Like, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, Miriam, what have you been doing? You can do
It's crazy to think what you can get done.
It was crazy. And so it was like, it felt like a training exercise, because every night the episode was playing and I'm like drawing at the same time and I wanted to get it done as soon as possible. So I start just like, I get into the habit of drawing every single day and doing multiple drawings and getting them done fast. Like, it was crazy. Like, I didn't realize I was capable of doing that. And so I get to the point where I'm just essentially always posting either my artwork or something related to Gary Vee. That was it. And a whole bunch of, like, I'm so blessed. So many people from the Gary Vee community, including yourself, you know, everyone came in. And I was like, and it was crazy because for me personally, I was going through a lot, like with my health and everything. I was not doing well. And it became an actual lifesaver because, you know, if I didn't, like, there was no choice but to be surrounded by positivity. That was all I was doing. And so I was, like, you know, yes, my uterus felt like it was going to explode 99% of the time. And my mental health was not doing well. But this like amazing thing was happening at the same time. So it just, I never sunk into such a dark place as I had been before. Like, it just kept me up. And so I kept going with it because I was like, this is literally saving me from being in, you know, a really bad place right now. So I kept going. And I kept going, and bit by bit, I had more people from Team Gary Vee follow me. It was crazy every time. I remember, first of all, when D-Rock followed me, I freaked out. And then when the other person I absolutely freaked out over was Andy Krainak. He's the creative director for VaynerMedia. I lost my marble. I lost it. When I saw Krainak, I was like, and I just, it
was a moment. It was a moment.
Oh, it was such a moment. It was crazy.
Miriam, when you're working and, you know my saying, put into work, cry behind closed doors, put into work, believe in yourself. You know, when I talk about that is because the day will come that you'll be doing something and somebody that you look up to will recognize it. And here's your moment, you know, and so D-Rock follows you.
Didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I still kind of freak out sometimes because I look at, like, say I get a notification of someone like your drawing, or I send someone a message or they reply. I just think, like, I used to just, like, straight up, I do still idolize them, but, like, I used to just watch you. Like, I used to just watch these people, and now they're people that, like, I actually interact with. And that was that made me want to work even harder. I never got a big head about it. Like, I genuinely just want to work harder and harder because I just think, like, these are the people that I want to be like. So I have to put in the effort even more. Like, it doesn't stop, and in the best way. But so I had members of Team Gary Vee following me, and one of those people, so I had Dustin and Zane from, you know, they are the people running Tea with Gary Vee. And
then, you know, people know how I feel about Zane and in particular in Dustin, and shout out to Gary Vee. But those guys are amazing. The work that they do, the support, the liking, the maybe commenting. You know, it goes to show you that, you know, Gary put into work. He talked about, you know, when he was doing the wine videos, and people would be like, dude, you're crazy. No one's going to watch it. And then flip it, 10 years pass so fast. And look at that. He has the whole planet on notice.
And I think one of the best things is the culture that he has in his company.
Right.
You know, I think like one of my probably my absolute goal is to work for Vayner or work for Team Gary at some point. I'm patient, I'll be fine.
Right.
But I cannot think of a better, like, you think about how many people are in that group and everybody has the best attitude and mindset, you know, because it comes down to who Gary is and the culture he built in his company. And
Right.
so everybody on Team Gary Vee, like, they're all fantastic people. Of course they're fantastic people because, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk is their freaking boss, you know, he knows who he is. So anyway, so in all of this, I had Zane following me on Twitter, and I got to a point, so I was tweeting all my questions and I was having a cry. Like, my question was essentially about my personal life crisis that I was going through. And
everybody has their question. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm tweeting, and then I was like, okay, maybe let's start attaching my drawings to the tweets, because I was like, I have so many lying around at that point. So I was like, every time I tweeted a question, I would like attach a drawing, and it was really, it was just a fun way. But then one day I'm like, I think I messaged Zane, or Zane and I were messaging about something. I think he was, I don't know what, I can't remember what it was about. And then he just messages me and he's like, oh yeah, I saw your tweets. Do you want to get on the show? And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I forgot. I'm like, yeah, I would love to. I just couldn't process it. And so I got on the show, and I felt like I remember when I was on the show, I could not process anything. I felt like I was watching a YouTube video, and I knew thousands of people were watching. And Gary's sitting there, and Gary's talking, and I'm just like, wow, this is such a good YouTube video. I was like, I was like watching it. I'm like, wow, this girl has the same problem as me. Like, wow, it's almost like we're the same person. I was freaking out, and I was just like, I have no idea. And I was, oh my God. But it was amazing. And then after that, all these people from the community just came in.
No, it's insane. It's
crazy.
Insane. It's insane the amount of and I gotta say I know that for facts. You know, the amount of people that's come through from Gary Vee after that day. You know, when I was on, I always talk about it. I will forever be grateful because some of those people have been really close in helping me kickstart this. You know, our side hustle, or you know, elevate the business in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But I get it, Miriam. I get it, you know, and the guests on past that are going to be on the present and maybe in the future, they better appreciate, because it's not the fact, Miriam, I'm going to tell you this right now. It's not the fact that you got on. It's everything you had to go through and you've been through that got you there.
Yeah.
Nobody knows when, right? And I'm very open, like, when I text the text line, I was not in a good spot. I tell people that I was like, man, I was not. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to text Gary. And that was it. That was a wrap. I started texting. I started tweeting at it. I started doing what he said. Go in the comments, comment somewhere. I would go on the live and comment with everybody. And just like you, when Zane sent me that message, I was crying. I remember turning to my mom and saying, you got to see this. And she goes, what is it? I go, this is a message from a guy, a person that works with him. He wants me to have me on his show. I couldn't believe it, Miriam. I was in so much shock, because every emotion that I went through, that I thought about what I had to go through and to get there. And then I start to think about it now. Imagine I didn't text the text line. Imagine you never tweeted, or imagine you didn't do the mug drawings. Where would you be now? We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
We wouldn't have met. And it's so crazy, because like, what happened when I started, I actually wound up changing my question to Gary midway through our talk, because what I realized was I was essentially asking him, because like I said, I had dropped out of university and I was doing the art thing pretty much all the time. And I was asking him like, what was his advice on what I should do? Because I felt really lost on what to do at the time. And,
Right.
and when I thought about it more, I realized that the problem wasn't with university. It's that I judge myself based on what I can and cannot do. And, you know, because like sometimes, particularly with a chronic illness, something I'm going to be honest, like something I struggle with is like one day you could be fine. And then the next day you could be barely able to walk. And then the next day you could be fine. And then the next day you might just be a little bit uncomfortable. You know, your body goes all over the place. And for me, like, I feel like university is such a good example of what could potentially happen, where like you fall behind in something, it piles up, you end up in more pain, it piles up, and it's a really awful cycle. But the problem essentially is that like I just put so much judgment on myself of like, you know, whether it's uni or social things or even art things, you know, like I realized that was the issue. And so when I was talking to him, or even before I was on the show, I feel like I actually started to really think about the problem that I was having, because I was like, okay, you're going to talk to Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, you know, I had a feeling, I was like, I kind of knew what he was going to say because I'd watched so much of his content, but I was really thinking, I'm like, what is the real issue here? And so that's why like halfway through my interview with him, I was just like, okay, what's your opinion on judging yourself essentially? And that was the most, like that second half, the first half of our talk was helpful, but the second half was really, that was when I was like, oh, okay, thank you, Gary Vaynerchuk. You know?
No, I 100% agree. You know, which is funny because I'm a little different. I stuck with my question. And, you know, being a trainer in a business that I've been for 22 years, you know, and having to flip and go online, and now doubling and tripling down on the app, on my Zoom, and on YouTube. I would have never thought, Mary, in a million years. So when Gary, when I asked, you know, what do I do with a guy with basically no money coming in, no income, debt, where do I go from here? And he just said, monetize online. And I just think about it now, like, that's exactly what I did. Like,
acting on what he says. It, like, I think Gary is I hate, well, no, I don't hate, like, I find it funny when a lot of people think he's just a motivational speaker, because he actually has practical advice that will help you get out, like, fix your issues. So no, that's amazing though, because, you know, I've seen how much, even like the fact that you're doing the podcast now, you know, coming from gym talk, which I love gym talk, but coming from gym talk to this, you know, like, it's amazing.
You know, and I got to shout out again, a guy named who is watching me on Tea with Gary Vee during that episode, a guy named Tim Marner out of the UK. From Bolton in the UK. When he said, we had met after that, about 4 weeks after that, and he literally said, Jay, I've been watching you since then. And it was crazy what this gentleman did. But after that, saying, listen, I don't see you on all these, you know, the platforms are great, are great. But when he told me, he goes, Jay, you're going to be a sensation on YouTube. I'm like, how could, I don't fathom that, but if somebody else sees that, that makes you want to work harder. The whole thing about,
I can see it too. You have when the personality.
And I love talking, right? I love the people and hearing their story and finding about what they've been through or how can I help, right? Like I always say, yeah, I'm a personal trainer, but I could do a whole lot of other things. People have no how smart I am. I just, you know, I could talk gym talk, but I could talk business. I could talk about life. I could talk about parenting. I could talk about love. I could talk about being a good friend. I could talk about being a bad friend. Like when you go through stuff and you're a little bit more seasoned, or, you know, you've gone through a few experiences in your life, the best thing you can do, and I'm going to tell you this as somebody that's obviously way older than you, is you got to go through those bumps in the road. But if I can, and Gary can, and a guy named Tim Marner can, and another guy named that I know named Benjamin Watkins can, and help the younger generation coming up, it is going to be a smoother ride. Now think, Miriam, Gary gives you that information. You now on your platform articulate that and give it to all the younger people coming up. That's the same age. Think about that massive explosion that just happened.
I think that's why. So the reason I actually love making Gary Vee content, like, it's not to get Gary Vee's attention. It's absolute, like, I got it without meaning to, and that it was a byproduct of that. And the reason I became really passionate about it is because I know I know what it's like to be the person who needs to listen to Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, if you're looking him up, like, unless it's a business thing, most of the time, a lot of people who are looking at his content need that motivational content because they might be going through something for real, on some very real shit, and need someone like Gary in
100%.
their ears.
100%.
You know, a lot of people, for me, like, I put his content on because it's that, like he says, that 24/7 positivity, and it keeps your brain in the right place. So I knew what it was like to be the person who needed it, and I realized that I had the skills to communicate his message in my own way. And like, it, you know, it just became something that I really enjoyed. But where was I going with this? It felt like almost repackaging what he had to say and doing it in, like, and maybe it, you know, it's just another piece of content for people to enjoy. It's just another, like, yes, it's a little drawing. It took me, you know, half an hour to an hour, but it's something enjoyable that could, like, you know, make someone think about his stuff. Or if it's from a Tea with Gary Vee episode, they might go back and they might watch it and they might get that value from it. And I became passionate about, you know, articulating his content because I knew how much it became so meaningful for me, because it was like, okay, this is something that could actually help somebody. You know, this is not just a drawing. This is almost like a directory to go back and watch his content, to go back and watch his video, you know?
Right. No, that's awesome. And that, you know, we love the content you're putting out. I got a few last questions here.
Of course.
This, you know, so the you know, we got the lead up, we see what happens in March. We get onto Tea with Gary Vee. You get the follows, you get the likes. You're producing mad content now, and you're like, holy smokes! I didn't believe I had this in me, right? And now you're like,
a lot of my content is not art at the moment. Like, I am posting artwork, but there's so much more. I'm putting myself in front of the camera a lot more. I'm practicing my video editing a lot more. Like, I'm really trying to push myself to make different types of content. Where I get to be myself a lot more and share more of my story in, like, just different ways, honestly. Right.
So, and that's a good segue to what I was going to ask you right here is, where are you liking to go? So you got the digital.
I got it.
What is and I'm going to share something that I'm doing right now that it has me, two things that I'm doing that has me absolutely excited out of this world.
Jarrett, tell me.
I'm going to let you go first. So you have the digital, but what's one thing that you're really enjoying? Like, you were like, I'm really enjoying this right now.
I did not realize I really like making video content. It's not my forte. Like, in terms of editing and stuff, it's still a very new skill to me, but it's something that I really enjoy because I get to put a lot of aspects of my personality in it. It's been really fun. So the video content is definitely something I didn't think I would enjoy so much, but I have really loved doing it. I think in terms of where I want to go with it all, I don't know. I mean, my ultimate, like, dream job would be to work for Team Gary Vee or in Vayner, essentially.
I get it. I love that. I love that ambition.
At the same time, though, I'm really loving just doing my own content creation. I think it's just really fun for myself. And what my attitude, I guess, is whatever comes of it, I'm super grateful for. And, you know, I've had so many opportunities. I've gotten to work with Like even just there's a brand that I love. I don't know if you know Wildhood. They're the ones. Do you know how D-Rock's doing his hoodie collaboration?
Yeah.
So they're the people who are making those hoodies and everything. And even they hit me up like before the D-Rock collaboration dropped or anything.
Wow.
They hit me up and they're like, do you want to just draw some stuff for us to post? And like, we can do some stuff with that. So I made some stuff for them and I was like, crap, that was really fun. Like I really enjoyed that. And so there's just like a lot of stuff that, you know, there's a lot of opportunities. I've been doing a lot of logo designs, like commission work. You know, there's a lot
Amazing.
of aspects. There's a lot of aspects to being, you know, you can do commission work, you can do brand work, you can do your own work. You know, there's so many avenues to go with it. And I just want to try out and keep going with as many of them as I can, and whatever comes of it, comes of it. And in the meantime, I just stay hardworking and patient. Like I think that's
oh, love that.
I can do, you know, like I can only control how hard I'm working.
Yeah.
So, oh, thank you.
You know who's clapping right now? I'm a big fan, and I always say this, God rest his soul, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant just listened to that and said, that's the Mamba mentality right there.
Yeah.
Mamba mentality right there. Just keep working. I love that. I love that, Miriam. You know, it's funny because I've been doing this so long. You know, I've been in athletics my whole life. You know, I am that person where you went from, you know, the science to arts, which was like, it's somewhat the same, but completely end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I always been in athletics. Yeah. And so it was kind of, you know, I met a gentleman named Dave Buchanan when I was in California. And he pulled me on the side. He was training some NFL players to get ready for the combine. So it's before the guys go to the NFL draft. And he pulls me aside. He got 5 guys out there and he goes to me, Jay, the difference between the first guy and the last guy in the draft is going to be $10 million. He goes, it's how bad they want it. And then he says, you can do what I'm doing, but you are going to have a greater effect. Miriam, when he said that to me, I said, I knew I was going to be a trainer. Now, 22 years later, I'm looking at it and I'm having fun on 2 things. One is branded equipment. And because we were in a pandemic, or we are still in a pandemic in our country, I don't know how it's in Australia. I've heard there's certain things that in certain countries, they don't have their own style there. Now that's no here, that's maybe for a different podcast that right now, we don't have made in Canada dumbbells. And I said it to myself that I'm going to take the responsibility to find a way, not because I want to, and I've been posting, if you go to my Instagram, you see the Coach J style dumbbells, not because I want to make the dumbbells. Yeah, it's great. My members will love it. They'll be in their houses and stuff like that. Their gyms, their home offices. It's because it's going to create opportunities for other fellow Canadians who lost their job before, during, or might lose their jobs after this pandemic. Absolutely. And I can say, listen, it's okay. We got work. Come work with us. Not for us. Come work with us. Because like you said about Gary, you want to breathe that environment where it's exciting. Listen, this is how I come into work. I come in hot.
No, if I was there, I'd work for you in like 2 seconds flat. I have no fitness background, but I'd do it.
Anytime. And this is how we come in. And I tell people, listen, a couple of weeks ago, I wore on Gym Talk, I wore a collared shirt. And everybody's like, Jay, you're so dressed up. I'm like, hey, I wanted to come in jeans and a collared shirt.
Yeah.
It's dress down Friday every day, right? Like, so why, you know, for me, and then the other, Miriam, is scooters. I'm going into the side business of electric scooters. I had a great time. I had a great time in North Carolina. With this girl named Body by Andrea. I don't know if you're following her on Instagram.
I don't think so, but still.
She's on Instagram. She's huge on TikTok. At 180,000 people on TikTok. Wow. And I went out there and I had a great time, Miriam, and I turned to Andrea and I said, let's start a scooter business. And she said, what do you mean? I said, we're gonna make branded scooters. Hers is, her thing is Body by Andrea, mine is Coach J Fitness Studio. I said, we're gonna come together, we're gonna think of a name for these
Yeah.
scooters and have fun. Now, why do we want to do that? Because it's something we don't, it's so fun, and we don't work in fitness. But how fun would it, just like you did,
I love it.
To now have to be laser focused on something else that is fun doing. You found it fun in creating digital artwork, and now finding it fun in doing video editing and all this talking. I'm telling you, this scooter thing, I'm having so much fun with.
I think what I love is your intention is so genuine. You know, like I think with brands, like I'm starting to learn this. I kind of learned it the hard way at first, because after being on TV with Gary Vee, there was a dodgy brand. Not to name anybody, but there was a dodgy brand moment. And then I think like the way I sort of thought about, is this a good decision or not, was when I thought of Wildhood, because Wildhood they are such a genuine, amazing group of people. You know when you're talking to a good brand versus a bad brand. And I think it comes down to what the intention behind it all is. Like, you know, you're not trying to rip people off. It's not about that. It's literally coming from your passion for what you do. And I think that runs down whatever business avenue you take. So I'm really excited, you know?
Yeah,
That's
no,
what I would say, because I noticed, you know.
Maybe you know, we'll talk at a later date, or maybe even in a couple days or two, we'll talk about you doing the logo.
Dude, I would be so down. Anything you ever need designed, just DM me. I'm down for it.
Maybe we'll get you to design this funky logo for us.
Yeah, and if you know what, if you don't, and there's another designer or artist, no offense taken either. Like, it's all just whatever happens.
It's all good. No, hey, listen, Miriam, we're a big fan of yours. We love you. We enjoy everything you're doing. I'm gonna end this just like I end Gym Talk, right? And you know how that. I'm living to 200, so I'm gonna know you a very long time. With the whole world watching, and we believe the whole world is watching, what's the one thing you want to tell the whole world right now?
Okay, this might have been my answer on Gym Talk, but I'm gonna say it here anyway. So I think no matter what you are going through, your painful experience, or your literal pain, or your painful experience, whatever it is, that is the fuel to create something. You can create. Like, it does not matter what it is. It doesn't matter how good or bad it is. Just put some kind of pen to paper, or whatever it is for you, and turn all of that negativity, turn it into something, create something from it, because you don't know who's watching you. You don't know what's going to come of it, you know, and even just the feeling that it will do for you as a person. That's what I'm just basically, that's my quote unquote mission. No matter what I'm doing, I'm trying to make so that people look at me and go, huh, she did it. I can do it. You know, I want people to create. I want people to put their energy into making things. So that is my, I kind of have a thing going through my head that, like, pain creates. Like, pain creates. Like, you have the option to create something from what you have been through or are going through. It's fuel. You know, it's not something that destroyed you. It's not something bad. You are who you are because of what you've been through, and it is literal fuel just sitting there waiting to be set on fire.
Amazing. Listen, I couldn't say better than myself. Listen, Miss Lady, you enjoy the rest of your morning there. Say hello to the family. You know,
I will.
We're a big fan of your moms too. Your
mom
is
I love it. Every time, like, Coach Jay replied to my comment, and Coach Jay I love it so much. My mom is a big fan.
She comments on things. She sends us stuff, you know, in our DM. Like,
I love that.
We're big fans of hers, and she's a big fan of us, and we really appreciate. Listen, keep doing what you're doing. Keep plugging away. We know tough times don't last. Tough people do. You got it in you. You got that Mamba mentality in you. You go out there, you crush the world. Hey, and I'll put in a good word for you with Gary, and I'll put it out, and I'll pray for that you one day is up there in New Jersey with those wonderful people there, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Coach. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. This was
No,
so much
this was
fun.
great. This
It
was
was
great.
so fun.
This was great. And many more to come. Many more to come.
Absolutely. Just let me know and we'll figure it out.
Awesome. Awesome, Miriam. Have a
Thank
great night.
You too. Great day.
Oh, great morning. Oh my
Yes,
God. Great
I know.
morning. Have a great morning and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. See you, Coach.
Wow. Man, oh man. Miriam is unreal. Thank you for watching. If you like more stuff like this, join me on Instagram Live, Monday through Friday, 9:05 Eastern Standard Time with Gym Talk with Coach Jay. Give me a like, give me a follow, give me a subscribe, smash that bell, and let's get on to it. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Peace out from Coach Jay and the Gym Talk family. We'll see ya.